Mm. Mm.
Lovely. Hello, friends. Welcome to this informative webinar. My name is Yoli Mayaye. I'm one of the co-founders of Decipher Group, and I'm here with my cohort here, Ruth Ann Gagnon. And
Yeah.
we're welcoming you into an opportunity for us to share some of the nuts and bolts, some of the inspiration behind our signature workshop, Solving the Equity Puzzle. Ruthann, did you want to introduce anything?
No, not especially. I'm super excited to be here as well. And we love kind of like getting through this, like the nuts and bolts are so fun because it's just like, yeah, bam, bam, bam. Like let's talk about the heart of who we are and how we operate and what our mission, our beautiful mission is. So, working at this intersection of diversity, equity, inclusion, and wellness. Um, and yeah, let's get rolling. I love it,
Yeah.
Yoli.
And
Yeah.
exploring what that is. It
Yeah.
sounds like a really cool thing, but we want you to feel that there is a tangible space called the intersection of DEI and
Mhm.
wellness, and that
Mhm.
um there is a pathway, there's a framework, and there are also maybe a couple of pieces missing. So this is our opportunity to explore this with you all, and we look forward to the adventure.
Mhm.
We love to pause at the beginning of whatever it is we're doing and take a moment to center ourselves, to allow all of our being to come into the space. I don't know if you know, but we leave little parts of ourselves all over the place. You hop on a plane and travel somewhere and you get off, and a little bit of you is still back in the place where you just departed from. So when we just pause, connect to body, connect to breath, and connect to land, there is something very magical that happens. But I don't want to tell you what the magical thing is. I would like to share a land acknowledgement, an embodied land acknowledgement with you, um, as an acknowledgement of the multidimensional nature of our being, an acknowledgement of our interconnectedness with the natural world, and what would it be to be resourced by that connection as we consider historical narratives, changes we'd like to see, systems we'd like to transform, cultures we'd like to grow, and futures we'd like to vision. So, with all that said, I invite you to make whatever position you are currently in, um, 5% more comfortable. Right? Does that involve you fluffing a little bit through your bum, or rolling the shoulders a couple of times, stretching the neck, oh, the body making sounds? Whatever adjustment you can make in this moment that will allow you to link in or tap into the breath. I mean, if it feels good to close your eyes, if it feels good for the eyes to be open, either way, there's no one right way here. There's just becoming aware of the positioning of the breath in the body. Don't change anything. And oh, for crying out loud, don't judge your breath right now. Oh, my breath is so tight. Oh, my breath is, I have the worst breath ever. I don't know about the smell of the breath. I just say the quality of the breath, right? But just let yourself arrive. The breath is naturally arising. Where do you feel the breath? Is it in the chest? Does it dance between the ribs? Can you feel it tickling around the shoulder blades and the back body? How about in the lungs? Where do you feel the lungs? Front, sides, back body? Maybe you've already done some breath work today and you're feeling your breath already dropping into the lower abdomen, below the navel. With each of your naturally arising breaths, just settle it a few centimeters down, couple of inches lower. You don't have to be in a rush, just allow it to be naturally arising. Did you just eat a big meal and now you're sort of breathing around the stomach? Stomach likes that. Very helpful for digestion. Did you start breathing into the belly and your body gave other responses? Gurgling, bubbling sounds in the belly. You might notice saliva filling the mouth or the eyes softening, possibly even watering or tearing. These are all just the language of the body relaxing a little lower below the navel. You have a big, beautiful pelvic bowl to breathe into as we slowly make our way down to the earth of this body, the base of the pelvic bowl. Now allow yourself to go into the earth below, down past base of the pelvic bowl, down the legs and out the bottoms of the feet, whatever's connecting to earth right now. Reach into the earth as if you had tendrils, little vines, extensions of your own body that could reach into the earth. And what we find is the perfect earth, warm and moist and malleable and inviting. Perfect temperature, perfect moisture level, perfect mineral balance, reaching into this earth. And as if you could draw that earth energy upwards like straws, little vacuum tendrils into this body. And let it fill from the toe tips all the way upwards, beautiful shades of brown and gold and red and gray and black and sparkly with minerals filling the whole of the legs. Filling from the base of the pelvic bowl upwards, filling the whole trunk of the body, filling in a pleasant way. The arms to the fingertips, oozing out of each fingertip upwards, shoulders, neck, head, oozing out of the hair. You are earth itself. And in this moment, the earth of this body, the earth of the space below, this mingling of earth, we acknowledge the ancestors of land, the ancestors who have stewarded our knowledge, our ability to live and thrive, part of our inheritance. We honor the ancestors of land where our bones are currently residing. We honor the ancestors whose names perhaps we know. Here where I am, I'm on the land of the Yakama and Kititas peoples. And then there's older peoples than them, names of the ancestors of land that we do not know. This could be a moment where you tap into the ancestors in your own field, those that have walked before, those that guide, benevolent, helpful entities in our lives, teachers, guides, spiritual friends, ancestry known and unknown, bloodline and well beyond. What does it feel like to allow yourself to open up to a whole interconnected web of being that includes you and is so much beyond the entity called you? What does that feel like? Open your eyes, take in the room around you. What does the space feel like? What does your body in the space feel like? Land acknowledgement has become a ritual. My library has a land acknowledgement. The PTA at my son's school has a land acknowledgement. And it's a good start to read our land acknowledgements because that's storytelling and that's a lot to do with how we will heal, how we will vision our liberated future. And at the same time, it's missing a piece. It's missing the embodiment aspect of the practice. So it's not enough to read the words. So if you find yourself at a land acknowledgement, a public land acknowledgement somewhere, receive the words and at the same time connect to breath, connect to the earth of this body, connect to the earth where you are in that moment, and let the land acknowledgement be of the land, returning the agency and voice to the land itself. Now we can speak for the land, or at least we can try, in earnest. We might not get it right. But I don't know. I think the land is rather forgiving in that sense. And so it's more important that we do the acknowledgement to the best of our ability than not do it at all, right? So this is part of remedy when we're considering the silencing, the erasure. This is how we bring back and tap into an aspect of our indigeneity, the indigenous identity that lives within. So no matter what we just did, you took a breath, you slowed down, you acknowledged connection, and that's all very powerful.
Yeah.
So I thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Yoli. Oh, yeah, and continuing in on the conversation about, what are we talking about when we're talking about the intersection of DEI and wellness? Some of you who are here or maybe listening to the recording, there are absolutely designs of DEI that we've seen that are working really well. However, what we have noticed in our personal lived experience alongside what others have shared with us is like, oh man, there seem to be some missing pieces. How do we create a healthy, design for diversity, equity, inclusion? How do we stop what is one of the most notable pieces for me is, this real cerebral, very heady kind of approach to the process. And gosh darn it, it just doesn't quite seem like that's working so well. This brain of ours is working real hard. And the good news is that we actually have so many brains in our body that we can tap into. And this is part of why we talk so much about the body having to be part of this intersection. And it is one of the crucial missing pieces of diversity, equity, inclusion design, DEI design. I know even for myself, sometimes I remember preparing for this webinar way back and totally over intellectualizing the discussion of how I was going to talk about intellectualizing. It's real, it's so out there. And then I was like, no, we don't, the good news is that we still want to use our brains through this process, but man, we have a deep opportunity to incorporate the entire body. And that's part of where we see that intersection when we talk about it with wellness, that it's the whole body, all of our bodies. And with that in mind, that also then gives us this opportunity to tap into all of these amazing creative solutions that will actually help us, build into liberation for all of us into the future. Yeah.
I like that vision.
Oh, we're going for it. We're going for it.
I like the vision, and we got to bring ourselves into the present. Okay,
Yeah.
where are we at right now?
Right now.
Right. And we want to put out there a belief, right? An assumption, a healthy assumption. We want DEI initiatives to work. We are championing diversity, so an increase of diversity in organization spaces, projects, and initiatives. We know we want to see a more equitable distribution of resources. And I want to name time, money, labor, right? Salary, wealth. And inclusion. We want our spaces to feel inclusive. We want people to walk up to the door or the window, the proverbial door or window, and be like, yeah, I'll go in and check this out. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be curious with this. And so we're talking about this over intellectualism of the landscape of DEI and recognizing that the approaches of the last, let's just say 10 years. So it's 2024. So let's go to 2014. Right? The DEI approaches of the last 10 years have been highly intellectualized. We've also had a big focus on collegiate level academic views. So whether that's a critical race theory, a feminist theory, or even where my background is in terms of global studies, cultural anthropology, it's so easy to lean into dictums, and intellectual dictums and frameworks are what's going to fix us. Where that led us to is an over focus on policy. And unfortunately, we're seeing now the backlash of that. The landscapes, there are some organizations that are grooving. And in our case studies, what we've observed is those organizations are smaller and they are more radical with how they distribute the financial resources for DEI education. For example, instead of the organization deciding what the DEI education is going to be for everyone and having blanket professional development trainings, they are creating almost like a HSA, an account that you'll spend down on. You will find the trainings that are relevant for you. You will identify where your growth areas are and subsequently find the spaces that are going to be the most nurturing for you. When you give individuals agency to choose their own learning, they are more willing to do it, is the feedback with this.
Yeah.
There's an assumption that we have to make at the window, at the doorway of DEI, and that is, humans are intrinsically good. The media, Hollywood, screenplays and storylines might not be reinforcing this truth as much as it would be helpful. We can also name religious institutions that really lock us into ways of thinking that we are intrinsically bad, and thus in life we should strive to be good, but we're never going to be good. So, just do your best. But that is actually not the reality. And so sometimes we have to play little games with ourselves when we're standing at the doorway or standing at the window looking in on the opportunity for transformative work and transformative process. We might think, I don't know, I have had these experiences before that were not so nurturing. I'm not sure I want to walk through the doorway. I'm not sure I want to come back to the table. This assume the good as an ethic, as a practice. I know I employ this all the time because I know what awaits me when I walk into a DEI space. A lot of discomfort. And what is going to help me consciously choose discomfort, consciously choose to lean into the very thing that I am resisting, which is in part taking a hard look at myself and identifying my areas for growth. So we want DEI to work. There's a way for this to happen. And as Ruth Ann named before, without this practice coming into the body, we will remain in an intellectualized version of this work, and the discomfort of what we're seeing right now, which is a very public response. This response is contradictory to the DEI principles. This approach is organized and very well funded. And we are already seeing the implications of this in changes in DEI policy in higher education, within some governmental institutions, within corporate structures, and we will continue this year to see a trickling down of this effect. So here's the thing, friends. We thought the easiest thing would be to change the rules, and then that will change humans' behavior. Well, it's very kindergarten, if you will, that like, yeah, sure, if we're talking about the emotional maturity level of 5-year-olds, you know what? That approach might work. But we're talking about adults who hold power and privilege, not schoolyard sandbox antics. This is stuff with real stakes. We're talking about people in positions who write laws, who govern, who deliver verdicts, so on and so forth. And so it wasn't enough to change the rules, meaning policy, and then that will make everybody change their behavior. No, if you want humans to change behavior, then you have to invite us into, frankly, a more playful version of unpacking, holding up mirrors, and taking hard looks at ourselves and wanting to do that. It's not bribery, but it is curating this. So we wanted to share a resource here. It's embedded in the slides that we'll share with you after the webinar. This was an essay that we wrote in response to the higher education precedents set by the Supreme Court. And I think that was this past summer, so about a handful of months ago. We wrote a response of, okay, precedents in the way through. We can either get caught up in the outcome of the precedences, or we can get galvanized. We're saying there's a way through.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that in mind, we're going to take a little pause for some reflection here. If you happen to have a pen and paper, great. If you don't, that's cool too. You can just sort of stare off into space. We love a good staring off into space and trancing a little bit and reflecting on questions. And this is actually a set of questions that you can absolutely take back with you, even, potentially to your own organization. Because while we want to talk about the way through, it's also really important to start with, where is everyone now? What kind of experiences have your team, your department, your team, your people, your organization already had with DEI training experiences? The answers tend to be quite can be surprising to some, can be very, expected from others. One of the things we've seen most, that Yoli already mentioned, in some of our case studies has been the amount of not even just net neutrality, but actual harm that has taken place. And and we are so aware of that that hesitation or that resistance to even returning to the table, especially without the body, especially if we're going to stay in this over intellectualized space, this non-playful space, this sterile kind of grayscale kind of experience. So yeah, first question, what kind of DEI trainings experience have you had? And then maybe like there's a space to say like, even if you're not someone who is always thinking about like, what did it feel like in your body? Maybe this is the time to think about it and reflect on it, not just like can write down those experiences we had, but then also like, whoa, where was that? Like, where did I what did it feel like in my heart during those experiences? What did it feel like in my belly? What did it feel like in my big left toe? Wherever you want to take it, but what was, what feelings came up, um, emotional, physical, metaphorical, all the things. And then coming back to, you know, my sort of my mentionings of what we can dream into in the future. This is where like this amazing sauce gets to come in too of like, wow, what would you want training like this to feel like in the future? Such amazing, powerful responses from a team in this area as well. So we'll take a few minutes here, give you some space, and pause.
Mm. I think we also want to acknowledge that maybe you've never attended a DEI training.
Yeah, thank you, Yoli. Yeah, yeah,
I'm just saying that that's okay. It's okay to
yeah.
be at the start of the journey, and um, you don't have to immediately apply guilt.
Oh, yeah, please don't. Please don't. And yeah, this could also be an exercise to your point of like, what have you heard? What have others shared with you? And no exclusion by any means. Like what, regardless of whether you've attended one or not, let's do away with any potential guilt and go into like, man, how would I want to feel? What would I want those to feel like? How would I want to feel? How would I maybe want the people all attending with me? How would I want all of us to feel collectively? So
If
yeah,
you,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, if you're watching this as a recording, you could totally pause here
Yeah.
and go a little deeper. I'm gonna move us on,
Yeah.
and I don't know, email us. We want to know about your experiences.
Please. Yeah,
We
yeah,
really want to know what happened.
yeah.
So, little info in. I want to take you into the space of the intersection of DEI and wellness. These spaces already exist, actually, within your organizations. But for us to invite folks into rest, we have a decolonial act that we have to engage in right from the start, because my idea of rest that has been imposed upon us is quite possibly the least restful possibility of rest. You live in a world where multitasking is praised, where if you can subsist on 5 to 6 hours of sleep and still pound through 18 hours of your day, you are praised, you are celebrated. And if we had a little bit more background knowledge about this body, its construct, how rest and activity work alongside the systems of the body, we would be far more freaked out by the very little amount that we rest. Without rest, we don't have space for processing. We humans are large storage vessels. I think that's how we developed computers and other storage vessels in our own likeness. And what we do in this large storage vessel is we take memories, we take experiences, good ones and bad ones alike, and we zip drive them. So memory consolidation is something that happens in your sleep rest every night. If you're getting sleep rest, do you have a gadget, a Bluetooth gadget, an Apple Watch, something that started telling you about the quality of sleep that you were getting? And then all of a sudden you're like, no, my head's on the pillow for 7.5 hours. Why is it only telling me I get 3 hours of sleep? Uh-huh. Now you got your own data showing you. You don't even have to go to the sleep study unless it's serious business, showing you actually you're not sleeping. The mind is active. You're not getting into the zones or the states of consciousness where you are filtering. editing, tossing out the stuff you don't need. Do you know that your mind records everything that's happened in the day? And then in the night's sleep, hopefully, your brain sifts and sorts through all of those memories and decides, hey, this is stuff worth keeping and this is just trash. It's like clearing up the cookies in your web browser. And all of a sudden, guess what? Your web browser goes faster. The pages load quicker. That is exactly what happens in your mind. So we have such a limited scope of what rest is. We think rest is just sleep. We need to open ourselves up to something that's a little bit paradoxical, and that is what we've named as active rest. What are the other activities that we could be engaging in that produce the outcome of rest in the body? That outcome being processing time and space, consolidation, and is the opposite of packing it away and storing it. Where does your nervous system pack it away? In the joint spaces, in the muscles, in the organs. And then in some cosmologies, we also have external hard drives, so deep storage vessels. We got cloud storage, but it's all in this body-mind field, in this multidimensional body-mind field. So, okay, what we're saying then is we need more spaces where we experience this phenomenon of active rest. Things like meditative states or trance states, imagination, dreaming, daydreaming. Remember, you used to daydream when you were a kid? And you came up with creative solutions in there. We need acts of art and artistry where, again, we are in expansive, creative, liminal spaces. This can also translate into some movements. Okay, we might default to something like a yoga, tai chi, moving meditation, breath work. How about running? Some people are like, no, running is my meditation. Absolutely. But for example, there'll be a difference between you're running, you're listening to a podcast at the same time. You're running and taking a call at the same time. That's not active rest. You're exercising, your heart's benefiting, absolutely, blood circulating in the body, but you're not tapping into this magical space that's going to inform the better version of you in terms of a more mindful movement. So that's the difference between the podcast or a run where you're looking at the trees, where you are taking in the natural surroundings. And again, there is an expansive state to the mind consciousness. We also must name the regulating, nervous system regulating possibilities when we are in and experiencing social connection. Can that happen through the boxes of Zoom and Google Meet? Yes, it can. And real life connection with nature, connection with humans, connections with plants and animals, stones and rivers you cannot replace that with the digital landscape. So it needs to be a yes and. Right? This is we need both. And the pandemic was something that really showed us just how vital things could be when we are in a forced separation. Now, what about inside your organizational spaces? Where could some of we said in the beginning, there's already spaces that exist where DEI and wellness can meet. Maybe you've got yoga classes or on-site fitness, chair massage or educational classes. Maybe you already have an economic model where you have a health savings account and you're able to distribute resources of time and money towards this investment. Offsite events, competitive activities, retreats. This is normal. We have all the data in the world that's already pointed out that when we have wellness spaces built in to our work, community organizing, nonprofit, for-profit spaces, that we all benefit. Well, we would like to name for you that your wellness spaces are magical spaces for embodied DEI to flourish. They are gardens and they are ready to bloom. And so we ask you, what would it look like to reimagine wellness in your workplace? To reimagine it to be the spaces for embodied DEI?
I'm just pausing and thinking about this is one of the beautiful things that I think we both talk about is that we are constantly in a space of thinking about more creative solutions, and it is this other piece of good news is like, man, we start to get a group of people together. We get like this is, as we've been saying, like, not only do we want DEI to work, it is the tools and the places and spaces are there. It really just is about this alchemy, this opportunity to start to cross-pollinate in a different way. How do we do that? Accessing the creative gateway. How do we do that? The rest that Yoli has been so beautifully discussing here. And again, we want to come back to this. This isn't, this is about active rest, you know, creative collaboration amongst your workspaces. That alone could be a beautiful alchemical opportunity for new ways and figuring out what works, not only new ways, in general, but new ways for particularly for this group of people to engage, and kind of come back to this feast that we really see. This intersection of DEI and wellness is this beautiful feast of opportunity and invitation. But again, it just is it's requiring us to get creative. Also then means, where is that rest? What does that look like for us? So I don't know if anything else to add there, Yoli.
Well, I'd love to take a little pause.
Yeah.
Like, let's just take a minute to breathe together, right? We're stirring the pot. We're asking you all these questions. We're stirring up emotions, memories, aspirations, successes, failures. Just what would it be in this moment to feel like we have all the time and resources that we need, that we live in abundance, and that we have the tools that we already have the tools that we need. Like, just sit with that for a moment, that feast that you were describing, that fullness, that fully blooming garden,
Mm.
and just let whatever is arising arise. What are you noticing in the body as you've allowed yourself a pause? Sometimes we feel really tired when we stop the movement. I'd like you to know that's okay. Sometimes we feel a mix of feelings, excitement and fear at the same time, curiosity and displeasure at the same time. maybe you're just in the neutrality of it all. Tapping into the field of potential. If you feel like this pause is giving you life right now, pause this recording. Stay here longer. It's amazing. We will be
Do
right
it.
when you unpause the recording. If you're ready to surf with us a little bit more. So we put together an approach. We design spaces for you to learn, to explore, to grow. And we have shared solving the equity puzzle, and we'll continue to uh, share with you our vision of 4 domains of decolonization, active restoration, creativity, and messaging and integration. We're also watching the landscape. We're looking, we're staying informed, we're listening, and we are recognizing the extremes of the moment. We have brought together 2 workshops to continue to resource us around this extreme presentation. One of those is called Ecology of Belonging, and the other is called Marketing Metamorphosis. And you can kind of see our DNA here. We love language of nature. It's where we started you all off today, connecting to land and body. We believe that by connecting to nature, that we can find the answers to the problems we're seeking, because probably nature solved that problem over the umpteen millions, billions of years that we've been at it. And that's just, the millions and millions and millions of the hundreds of millions of years here on Earth. But I mean, we could get going in the billions if we want to go all the way back to stardust and star nurseries. It's there. I know we can. And so what does this journey look like? I'd like you to take you on just a little map of these 3 workshops and share with you some of the possibilities as you are considering, where's your organization at? What's your stuck right now? What do you need exploring and resourcing around? And we would love to play, with you. We have a few resources for the journey to share. A recent essay we wrote called The Umami of DEI. It's a beautiful embodiment of the playfulness that we could be inviting in, the artistry. We have a podcast that you can check out, and here's a link for our episode on active restoration. And of course, we would love to see you in our workshop series over the next few months. Solving the equity puzzle takes us through how you want to feel in the work. This cusping place of old and new, as well as how the domains that we've identified in our core work at Decipher, how they intersect and cusp and dance together. Marketing metamorphosis, values-based messaging in a changing world. How do you share the message? We were talking about it yesterday. It's Black History Month, and it's Black History Month within the global context that we're currently in, a myriad, like so many venues of so much radical activity in the world, positive, negative, and neutral. How do you speak through your mission, the lens of your mission, vision, and values, and also build creativity amongst your creative teams so that your DEI messaging is not merely an externalized activity, but it's equally an internal journey within the organization. We know marketing metamorphosis is a really important topic for right now. it's Black History Month, and then 9 months is going to be Women's History Month, and then just keep going on
And
with the
then,
months.
yeah.
And I mean, I got my own thoughts about the months period, but we're
Yeah.
still doing this. So, how do we pivot? And just to say that our view at Decipher, we identify creative teams, marketing teams as another space for the intersection of DEI growth. Okay, so if that sounds like, ooh, what's that about? This is the workshop for you. And our third workshop is called Ecology of Belonging. And the picture says it all. In community, we can inquire deeply into the paradoxes and contradictions of living and working in an era of social transformation. It's 2024. It's not 1968. It's not 1954. They didn't have the internet. And so when we are considering the glue or the web that weaves it all together, when defining DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in particular, what the goal is that people are looking through the door and looking through the window and saying, I belong in that space, which links us back to the messaging and marketing, which roots us into the fundamental principles of decolonization and active restoration, right? So ecology of belonging, I think, is a critical view into, not critical in the sense of critiquing, but an essential toolkit into how we build trust, how we design spaces for repair, how we make right when harm is done,
Yeah.
and why that needs to have DEI as the lens into that space.
Yeah.
So these are our offerings, in addition to, of course, our consulting and customized curation of things. Ruth, anything you wanted to add around our offerings or our curriculum?
The only thing I wanted to mention in too is like if you have questions about maybe, especially with this more standardized series,
Mhm.
um, again, we like to embody what we share and want to, to guide with others. And so, all three of these workshops, A, are very cross-pollinated, and it could be, depending on where you are, come and talk to us. It might make more sense to start with ecology of belonging, based on what the team's group, lived experience has been, and also maybe based on the present moment and where you want to go. Um, and so, that's one piece. The other thing is that all three of these workshops, while we love, we feel so passionate about the sauce and the alchemy that we've created. Um, these can be, super customized for your organization, on a particular day or date, or, the series that makes the most sense for you. So, we invite you to come and get a taste of those things. That's a great way to get a feel. It might be a select group, a particular group of, people in your organization that you might start with, and then be like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, this makes sense. I want to go this route or this route. So yeah, I just wanted to share lots of flexibility, and doesn't have to be a super linear, A to B to C fashion. That's again where we get a little hyper cerebral and we're like, well, no, hold on. Where are you coming into this constellation? Where are you wanting to start to really decentralize and knead the dough, in the most powerful, effective, healthy way for you and your crew? So
I love that invitation. Thank you.
yeah.
Also, we want to hear from you. You want to tell us about
Yeah.
your past DI experiences?
Oh
You
my
want to
gosh.
reflect on RAS and active restoration? Here's our web address. You can find our email, everything on there. Connect with us.
Yeah, please.
Newsletter,
Yeah.
podcast, and all the fun things.
Yeah.
So we thank you for your attendance today, and we look forward to connecting with you in any way in the near future.
Thank you all.
Thank you.